right now, anger and a demand for justice in Hampton Roads.
This cannot be our legacy. This cannot be our story here.
Within the past hour, protests started outside Congressman Scott Taylor's office in Town Center.
They want the Republican to take action and help 2,300 children pulled from their families at the border. 13 News Now reporter Chanu Hur is live at that protest at Town Center tonight.
And Chanu, the congressman is already responding.
Well, that's right, David and Regina. We reached out to the congressman earlier today, and he did respond to us in a statement. But right now, I am at that protest in Town Center, and it's wrapping up, but people are still out here just still talking about this issue more in depth and sharing with each other exactly how they feel about it. Some still have their signs up like this, but others expressing themselves differently, writing in chalk on the sidewalk and on the walls here, different phrases, and some names of children who are in their lives. Now, ultimately, what they want is for their lawmakers to hear them. Pictures and videos have sparked outrage around the country. Children of undocumented immigrants in cages separated from their parents.
I have a 4-year-old myself.
The images were disturbing to Jermaine Wright, which is why he joined a protest today in Virginia Beach Town Center, hoping to get Congressman Scott Taylor's attention.
We just have to let him know that he doesn't need to stand for what's going on right now at all.
Congressman Scott Taylor has come out in support of what's happening there. And we want to make our voices heard and to let him know that this is not an appropriate position.
Congressman Scott Taylor's team responded today saying in part, parents should be kept together with their children, but our nation's laws must be enforced. Washington Democrats and our Washington hand-picked opponent want the families to simply be released in our country, which is counter to our laws. Senator Tim Kaine's opinion contrasting Taylor's.
What they found is that America has a moral gag reflex, and they definitely hit it with this family separation policy, which was very, very heartless.
President Trump signed an executive order Wednesday to halt separating families, but people in Town Center think there are lots of unanswered questions and remain supportive of immigrants.
Whether they're illegal or legal, America's supposed to be home of a melting pot, and we're not showing that right now.
And Congressman Taylor's team says he is currently in Washington right now, working on new immigration laws that will benefit both families and border security. Senator Kaine says he hopes people and residents just like these ones today continue speaking up about this issue. Live in Virginia Beach, Chanu Hur, 13 News Now.